Okay. Thank you everyone for coming today to this particular webinar that I'm really excited about. My name is Kate Brunner. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Youth and Family Services Consultant at the Colorado State Library. And this webinar is part of our Talking Teen Services program, our series of webinars. We recently held a panel discussion on the same topic. And so after this session, we'll actually pull together both of those recordings and send them out to everybody who registered for both sessions so that you'll have access to the recordings and any other materials. So you can use closed captioning for this session. You can enable that in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And we also have, you may have to click the More button to find that. We also have a feature on our Zoom that allows for AI translated captions. So you can choose which language you would like the captions to appear in if you would like to have those in a language other than English. So please feel free to take advantage of that particular resource if you would like. So we will be using the chat today. Lindsay and Jessica have some prompts for you and whatnot throughout their presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay and Jessica from Louisville Library, and they will be able to introduce themselves and we'll get started.
So welcome to Empowering Teens Through Meaningful Service. My name is Lindsay Huth, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the children's librarian at the Louisville Public Library. I've been at Louisville for almost 9 years, and I started off in the suburbs of Chicago as an early learning librarian. And then prior to Louisville, I was also an early literacy outreach librarian. I've been coordinating both adult and teen volunteers for almost 10 years, and it's one of my favorite things to do as a librarian because I really enjoy helping people find ways to give back to their community, and I really enjoy helping volunteers tap into their passions and creativity.
And I am Jessica Schwartz, she, her pronouns also. I am the Teen Services Librarian at the Louisville Public Library. I have been in this role here for about 10 years now. I'm a Colorado native, but I went to library school at Simmons in Boston, and so I started out my career in teen services there. And I've been coordinating teen volunteers for about 13 years at this point. My favorite part about it is just the chance to get to know teens really well, to develop relationships with them, and to watch them grow, watch them gain confidence, and just to see how great they feel when they can give back to their community. It's really rewarding to allow them the space to do that. And so you can go ahead and tell them a little more about our library just to give everybody a sense of where we are.
So we have a staff of 33 people, and that includes full-time and part-time staff. Our youth services department has 1 supervisor, and we have 2 librarians, that's Jessica and me. And we have 4 library associates, and one of those associates is full-time. So I would say we're a mid-sized library, and volunteers really do play a crucial role in the services and programs that we're able to offer at our library.
We are a municipal library, so we're not part of a system or anything. We serve the city of Louisville as well as the neighboring town of Superior. We are located about 9 miles east of Boulder, about 22 miles north of Denver. The population of Louisville is about 21,000 and Superior is about 13,000. So that makes our service population about 34,000. It's a suburban community here with a small historic downtown area. Louisville is consistently ranked among America's best places to live, but it's also a very expensive place to live. Too expensive for most staff, in fact. Most of our residents are middle upper class, but we do have about 5% of our residents living in poverty. So we do have kind of a dichotomy there. This sort of diversity kind of gives us a unique opportunity to be both like a community hub, but also a resource provider for a lot of different residents. And we are very lucky to say that the community is super, super supportive of our library. All right, Lindsay, do you want to tell everybody about what we're going to cover today?
Yeah, so we will talk about how we structure our volunteer opportunities, and then we'll go over each of our volunteer opportunities in detail from both our children's department and our teen department. And we'll talk about logistics such as recruitment and marketing and how we reward our volunteers. And then we'll have some time for questions.
Structure. So we tend to structure our volunteer opportunity for teens by department. So there are teen volunteers in the children's department who work with Lindsay, and there are teen volunteers who work with me in the teen department. And the way we decide what's going where is we think about who the audience is that's being served. So Lindsay's volunteers tend to do things in the children's department, programs that serve children directly, while my teens are focusing more on opportunities that serve other teens. We also divide our opportunities up into both seasonal opportunities that we offer just a few times a year or just certain times of year versus ones that are continuous that we offer year round. Lindsay is going to start you off with telling you about all of our children's program opportunities.
So the first program that I'll talk about is Reading Buddies, which you may have at your own libraries. So like Jessica said, because this program is for children, I coordinate it with our teen volunteers. So Reading Buddies pairs teens in grades 7 through grades 12, who we call Big Buddies, with kids from kindergarten to 2nd grade, who we call Little Buddies. And they meet weekly every Sunday for an hour, and they do fun reading related activities, and then they get paired together and then they read to one another. So the program typically runs for about 7 weeks, and we offer this 3 times a year. We typically accept about 16 pairs of Big Buddies and Little Buddies for each session. So the roster changes for each session. So potentially we have new Little Buddies and new teen volunteers each session, but we do have some return volunteers as well. The Big Buddies and Little Buddies attend the program, and everything is already planned for them when they show up. So in addition to, say, the 16 Big Buddies that we have per session, there are 2 other teens in this format that I lead that serve as the Reading Buddies coordinators. So this is a position that lasts long-term through several sessions, or it might even last a few years while the teens are in high school. So the coordinators are teens who have been in the Reading Buddies program before as Big Buddies, and they showed an interest in becoming a leader. So the teen coordinators facilitate the activities between the Big Buddies and the Little Buddies each week. They take attendance and they help the Little Buddies find a Big Buddy to be with that day. And the coordinators also prep and plan and prepare the activity that they do for the last 15 minutes of every session. And that might be something like a group activity or an icebreaker or a craft. Sometimes they set up like a reading scavenger hunt around the children's department, or they might organize a shape poetry activity. So this setup is really great for our library because on Sundays, our staff is on desk for the full day. And so it's really key in having these teen coordinators to lead the program. It's what allows us to offer this program on a Sunday. So there's always at least one teen coordinator. And before that coordinator graduates, they select and mentor a younger teen coordinator. And they work together for several sessions so that when that original lead coordinator graduates, the younger teen coordinator can step up and take on the responsibilities of lead coordinator. So this is how I inherited the program when I first got to Louisville. And this program has been successfully transitioning between coordinators for about 9 years now. So over the years, I have taken on more of the administrative tasks of the program. The first couple of years that I started at Louisville, the coordinators worked very, very independently and really honestly never looked to me for support except to handle the application process, which I'm required to do by HR. But I did start to take on more administrative tasks to help the program run smoothly. For example, I started setting the deadlines for the applications and setting the application windows and to do it all earlier so that nothing was happening last minute. So this really helped cut down on the number of questions we were getting at the children's desk about Reading Buddies. It helped cut down on some of the confusion. In the past, the coordinators led the Reading Buddies training by themselves too. So this year I'll be co-hosting it with the new lead coordinator, and that's because she asked for some help and some support. So we'll see if she would like to take it on by herself with a new co-coordinator at some point, or if she'd like me to stay involved. So the training covers topics like how big buddies can help little buddies choose books and how to make reading interactive and fun. And they're coached to give their little buddies lots and lots of encouragement and praise. So I work closely with the team coordinators all year round. I reserve the room for the program, which is right in the children's area. So we're always able to keep an eye on the program. And I post the applications, I process the applications, and I handle promoting the program. So basically, I handle most of the administrative tasks that get the program up and running. So in the past, my coordinators managed a lot of the email communications with caregivers and participants in the program. They made the pairs, they kept track of volunteer hours. They would even confirm hours for volunteers for like National Honor Society. And so those are tasks that I'm going to be taking on for this next session and maybe going forward too, just because my new lead coordinator would like help and she doesn't have a co-coordinator yet. So it is becoming a little more hands-on, which is totally fine with me. I'm happy to do the admin tasks. What the teens really seem to enjoy doing is leading the session each week and planning the activities. That part is really creative and fun, and they really enjoy getting to develop the leadership skills. So if behavioral issues arise, we do always step in. So this happens very, very rarely. But for example, if we've had a string of Sundays that are really busy at the library, we might need to just email caregivers and ask them to go over expectations with their child, such as not running in the library. So we do empower the coordinators to run the program, but we're always there to provide support, and we never expect them to handle issues with behavior or with policy. Yes, and I'm seeing in the chat here that people are asking if we can share our application. So we can do that. And I'll just finish my Reading Buddies section here, and then we can go over some of these questions that are showing up in the chat. So there are some lessons that I've learned. If you have teens coordinating your program, it's important to make sure parents and caregivers are aware that this is how your program is formatted so that they know who to direct their questions to, and also so that they realize that this is a new experience for the teens as much as it is for the little buddies. It's really a growing experience for both of them. Also, make sure that your lead coordinator gets a co-coordinator as soon as possible so that they have a backup plan in case one of them can't be there for a session. And it also works better if the new coordinator has a long training period and is not only contributing to tasks, but has experience in leading all of them. And Jessica, you can advance the slide.
Okay.
Thank you. And so this is a meaningful experience because the teens get experience coordinating the program, and they report feeling that they've made a positive impact on their community. And they've also said that it's given them confidence in their social skills and their communication skills. They gain great leadership experience and experience with project management. They get to mentor teens their own age, and they learn how to respond to issues as they arrive, always with the support of staff. And so we do have some time built in here to hear about your own Reading Buddies programs or similar programs at your library. And we can also speak to some of the things in the chat.
Okay, I'm just popping up the chat now so that I can take a look at it too. I'm wondering, the application might be something that we could share when we send out our slides at the end.
Yep,
I don't know if you
absolutely.
wanted to speak to kind of Cliff Notes version of what you have on it, Lindsay, or how it works.
Yeah, the application for Little Buddies asks if they kind of like what their reading level is and if they're able to like focus on one thing at a time, or if they prefer to be, engaged in several different things at one time. That kind of clues the big buddies into how to interact with their little buddy best. It also asks if the little buddy wants to be paired with the same big buddy or a different big buddy next time. So there is quite a process in pairing the buddies to begin with. But then as attendance changes throughout the sessions, they might get repaired with someone else if needed. And for the Big Buddies application, we ask why they're interested in the program. We do a reference check, but everyone is accepted as long as they can successfully complete the application process. Really, the only time we have to limit who gets in the program is just because it's pairs and we have to try to make the pairs match up. So 16 little buddies and 16 big buddies, and we might give or take 1 or 2. And then my big buddies have always just chosen the next person, or I'm sorry, my lead coordinators have always chosen the next person who will take the next co-coordinator spot. And it's the person that is showing interest in being a leader and a person who has been a big buddy for a while. And like I said, they have always just done that really smoothly on their own. And this coming year, I think I'll provide my new lead coordinator some support in doing that because she's a freshman. She'll be a sophomore, I think, next year. And so I just want to make sure that she feels like she has the help that she needs.
I'm just going through the chat. Did we already discuss absences? There's a question about how we handle absences. I feel like we talked a little bit about big buddies. I don't know if we talked about little buddy.
Yeah, sometimes if a big buddy isn't there, they might get like the big buddies and little buddies might be paired 2 on 1, just depending on who's not there that day. And then if my lead coordinator is not able to make it to a Sunday session, since she doesn't have a co-coordinator right now, since she's just stepped up, we'll find a big buddy with experience who's able to lead that day. And we do have several of those big buddies who have a lot of experience, but just haven't chosen to be co-coordinators.
There's another question. How did we get our library to let volunteers run the programs?
That is just something like I inherited the program that way and it was run so smoothly. I mean, the teens were basically like waving to me like as they, came and went, and I really didn't have to do very much. Like I said, I've been taking on more and more administrative tasks just to kind of help streamline the process a little bit and cut down on some of the questions we were getting from parents who didn't understand who to contact. And like I said, my new co-coordinator, I think, needs a little bit more support.
And I think, like you mentioned, it's hard to describe the way our children's area is, but we have like our main children's area, and then there's a little room with double doors that we keep open that's literally right across from the children's desk. So you have like a great line of sight. So there's always staff around. It's not like they're in a room by themselves doing their own thing. It's really just they're just a little bit away from us doing their own thing. They're not necessarily on their own. But we do reference checks, and we make sure these are kids with experience who we can trust. And again, this program started before both of us were here, so I don't know exactly how that happened, but it's always worked well, and we've never been asked to change the way that it's handled.
Yeah, and basically what happens is everyone comes and checks in to like a little binder. They say that they're there that day, and then they go off and they walk around the library. They choose books. They might draw and color at tables. They might play some board games that we have in our cabinets. They might play with toys. And then eventually they sit down and they read for some amount of time. They're encouraged to read a little bit for every session whenever the little buddy gets comfortable. And then, so that part is really like happening out in our department under the supervision of the librarian at the desk. And then for those last 15 minutes, they go into our children's room, and that's when they do like a little activity on the floor or at tables.
All right, that is all the questions I'm seeing. Does anybody else have any questions or comments about reading buddies before we move on? And we will have Q&A time at the end if you think of anything. All right, I'm going to close this and advance the slide.
So next thing I'll talk about is Summer Squad, and I'm sure many of you have a teen summer volunteer program to help you with summer reading, and that's what this is for our library. They hand out prizes, they encourage kids to read, and they help with tasks around the department throughout the summer. So for our library, teens ages 13 to 17 can apply, and they can be from any school or city in the surrounding area. And every teen is accepted as long as they can complete the application process correctly. And I give them a lot of support throughout the application process because it can be confusing and intimidating, and I want everyone to be able to do it who wants to do it. So we typically have between 30 to 40 squad members, and we ask that teens are able to sign up for 1 shift a week, but we don't monitor this, and we're really flexible with scheduling. So every new squad member is required to attend a training. We cover why the library offers summer reading, our summer reading structure, such as how we count their reading, and we give them some core customer service training. So squad members sign up for their own shifts, and we don't have a volunteer software program, so they just sign up for shifts using a binder. And there can be 2 teens per shift, and staff checks people in using Beanstack, which is our software that tracks reading for kids. And then after we check them in for Beanstack, we send kids to the summer reading prize table that the teens are manning, and that's where they get their prizes. So the teens hand out prizes, and then they cheer kids on throughout the summer. So in addition to helping with summer reading, squad members help with various tasks around the department, such as cleaning up toys, sorting books, prepping craft supplies, and sometimes we encourage them to clean 10 picture books per shift or to cut scrap paper for 10 minutes per shift. The teens can also sign up to help with our summer reading carnival, and they teach the kids how to play the carnival games, and then they reset the game between players. And they hand out tickets and they hand out prizes. So it can be challenging to keep teens busy and engaged throughout the summer, and you may have experienced this, and I would love to hear your own solutions to this. I generally don't schedule the teens between 12:30 and 2:30 because it's pretty quiet at the library then, and they love this shift because they get to sleep in, I think. So I try not to include it as an option because it's just not very busy then, and that's the one that's most popular for them to sign up for. I try to schedule them at times when it will be busy, and I know there'll be a lot of kids in the library. And we also encourage them to bring a book to read. And I also really love it when they talk to the other teen at the desk because I want this to be a social opportunity for them. So we think that this is meaningful for several reasons. And let's see here. They get to experience talking to adults and working with children. They gain experience in customer service. They learn about what libraries do and why. And when we survey teens at the end of the summer, not surprisingly, they say that their favorite thing is interacting with the kids, and their least favorite thing is anything having to do with cleaning. So that's why we always keep it to a defined amount of time or a defined number of books. All right, and I have just a couple more to talk about, but we can stop here. Yep, that's okay. And hear about your own summer reading volunteer programs.
You can continue, Lindsay, if you want, and I'll start taking a look at the chat.
Okay. The next one is Read to Rover, Jessica. Should we talk about summer reading a bit?
Oh, I thought you meant you had more comments
No.
about why it was meaningful. Okay.
Yeah.
There's people who are excited about making it happen. Examples of activity. Oh, this is a Reading Buddies question. If we want to go back to that, examples of activities for the Buddies program, and how far in advance do the big buddies have to come up with the craft so that we can make sure they have the supplies they need?
Honestly, our big buddies come up with the craft often on the day of, like they'll just like find something on Pinterest or something, and then they might ask us to print a template for them at the desk, and they grab the supplies that they need. It's pretty informal. A lot of times they're recycling activities that they've used in previous years. That's what's happening most often, is they just have like 7 or 8 activities that they're recycling year after year, and they teach the next big buddies how to do it so that the lead coordinator can do it the next time. But it's things like, yeah, like shape poetry, maybe a craft. There's all different kinds of poetry that they do, or different icebreakers.
And then someone had a comment about something that they do at their library, which sounds interesting. From Jessica Chung, we have small sheets for children who attend our Reading Buddies, and they get a sticker for each session they come to. And when the card is full, they get to pick a small item from a mystery box, and they just reach in and grab something they can't see from the box. I love that, because when we have a mystery box during the summer and they have a hard time making a choice. So I love the like blind, just choosing from the box. There's a mix of adults and teens who volunteer to read and listen to kids. Once in a while, staff have to fill in, and there's a colleague that oversees it. That sounds really interesting. I like that aspect. Some other comments. We love our summer reading volunteers. I love working with them, making programs happen. Someone else says we have 2 groups of teen volunteers. Summer Reading Buddies and the Summer Reading Program, and the ones who help with the SRP, help plan, prepare, and carry out weekly crafts and collaborative art displays for our children's room. That sounds fun. I love
That's
that
amazing. Yeah.
idea. That's a really good idea. I might have to steal that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Any other thoughts about summer reading volunteers before we move on? And again, we can always come out. How do the volunteers know what prizes to give out? Oh, that's a good question. We have a very detailed system that we use. If you want to
We do
explain that.
at our prize table, everything is labeled and we have cheat sheets printed out in several different formats and in several different places. And then we also hand each child like a little slip of paper with a chart on it, and we check off what they're getting for that day. And so they bring it to the prize table and they give it to the teen, and the teen gives them everything that has a check mark. And there's charts for the different age groups. So there's a chart for the toddlers, a chart for kids, a chart for teen, and a chart for adults, because they do all of that at our prize table. That's a good question.
See, someone else says, we try to focus on workforce development with our teen volunteers over the summer. So we also have some circ tasks, shelving or shelf reading, as well as helping with programs and signing kids up for the program. That's great. We used to do that. Once we started Beanstack can be so quirky. We felt like we needed staff to focus solely on that, but we do have kids do some light help with shelving or shelf reading sometimes too.
Yeah, that's great to give them experience in different departments.
Yes. Let's see. There's some comments. Someone wanted to inquire about the collaborative art display. Is it a passive program for everyone or mainly for the teens? And the answer was it was passive for everybody. All right. And asking for more examples about that. Where do we get money for our prizes? Is this for our summer reading prizes, or are we talking about that person who did Reading Buddies prizes?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We have a foundation budget, and that's what we use for both our summer reading prizes and our Reading Buddies prizes. But just in the interest of time, Jessica, would you like to let people continue chatting while we
we'll
go to
go over
Reading
stuff at the
Buddies?
end.
Yeah, and we'll have more time for questions at the end.
Oops, there we go. Oh,
So next I'll talk about our Read to Rover program at the library, which you may have at your library also. This is our Read to a Therapy Dog program. So for our program, our patrons are required to sign a waiver before they can, before they're supposed to sit down with the dog. But in general, our program is pretty laid back. People go up to the dog whenever they're ready. It's not like a 1 in, 1 out, like some libraries format. And ours, the kids don't necessarily have to read to the dog. They can just interact with the dog. So it's a really informal setting, and you can see the room that Jessica and I have been talking about. And our desk is like right across from this room. So we can see in really easily. So our teen volunteers sit by the door and they explain the program to patrons, and they ask patrons to sign the waiver. And then when the program is over, they record the stats for me, and then they file the waiver in our records. So this is a really easy way to get teens involved at our library. And it's meaningful because I think it's a great introduction to volunteering at the library. And my Read to Rover volunteers often end up moving into department volunteer positions, and that position involves like a little bit more tasks. So we can go to the next slide, Jessica. And then the last one that I'll talk about, this is the teens talking about the Read to Rover program. And I have like an introverted teen who says it's really helped her with just like her social skills and communication. And the last one I'll talk about is our department volunteers. This starts out as a semester-long position and often ends up extending to a year or longer. And some of our teen department volunteers have stayed the length of their high school career. So I usually have two teens in this position per semester, and the teens come in for 1 shift a week, usually on a weekday after school, and the shift is about like 1 hour and 15 minutes. I found that's really like the ideal time for our library. I can fill that amount of time and they don't get bored in that amount of time. So the teens help prep crafts, they pull books for us, they refill certain displays, they take inventory of supplies for us, or they do any other tasks that staff have for them. And it's meaningful because the teens can manage their own time throughout the shift. So they're really gaining confidence in doing things independently and taking initiative. And if they have a particular interest, like in art, for example, I try to find creative projects for them, such as making felts. The teens also build relationships with staff, and they feel accepted in our space and become part of our team. And so I think we have a couple quotes on the next page. Jessica, if you'd like to, yep, there you go.
Yep.
So yeah, they feel like they're getting valuable work experience. They have a place to regularly come to when they feel accepted. So while I'm always looking for meaningful tasks for our volunteers, I remind myself that sometimes the most important thing we're doing is giving teens a place to go and a team to belong to. So I try to offer as many positions as I can just for that reason.
Okay, and now we're going to switch gears and I'll tell you a little bit about our teen department volunteers. So first I have my Teen Volunteer Council, which is our version of the Teen Advisory Board. We actually renamed it and kind of rebranded it after COVID. We found that the phrase Teen Advisory Board just wasn't clicking with folks. And when you think about it, it is really like library jargony. So my teens actually helped come up with a new name, and we called it Teen Volunteer Council because we thought it was more clear, and we thought the word council made it feel elevated and special. And when we made this change, I also kind of shifted the way I run the teen advisory group just to give it a little more structure. So like most teen advisory groups with TVC, my goal was to build kind of a group of go-to volunteers that I could bounce ideas off of. But I also really just wanted to provide a meaningful volunteer opportunity for them. So in addition to like the usual teen advisory group stuff, I also have them help plan and implement one major program each semester. So in the fall, we do an after-hours murder mystery event. The teens help come up with the theme. They help co-write the script with me. They act and play all the different characters in the murder mystery. They help with setup. They help with cleanup. They help, prepping all of our clues and things like that. And it's so much fun. The image on the slide here is we were cleaning up after last year's murder mystery, which was a pirate-themed murder mystery. And then in the spring, in the past, we've typically done a stuffed animal sleepover event. And children drop off their stuffed animals to have a sleepover in the library overnight. And the teens would help take photos of all the animals, come up with like fun things to have them do in the pictures. We would like pair each animal with a book that we thought was related, and they would help do that. It was really fun. And we make little photo albums for all the kids to grab when they come pick up their animal, and the teens would help us write like funny comments about what went down at the sleepover. And it was a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of work. So this year we're trying something fresh. We're going to do a stuffed animal adoption fair, and it's actually happening later this month. So we got a bunch of stuffed animals. And at our last meeting, the teens named all of the animals and wrote really cute little like biographies, profiles for each one. They also started prepping a craft that they'll do with the kids at the event. And then at the event itself, they will help pair every child with a stuffed animal. They'll help them make a little bed for their stuffed animal. And then we even have one who's going to serve as a notary and who's going to provide an official adoption certificate that's stamped and everything. So it's going to be super cute, and the kids are really excited for it. So those are the kind of two main projects that they work on throughout the year. In Teen Volunteer Council, I accept grades 6 through 12, which in our community is middle school and high school. And I accept applications on a rolling basis. And I accept everybody. The application really only exists just to help the opportunity feel important and to also allow for parent buy-in, because I do ask all parents to read it and sign it and provide their contact info for me. We generally meet basically around, I do cut meetings down during the summer just because often they're out of town. And I generally have about 15 kids, I would say, at any given time, a mix of returning members and new kids. And at each meeting, I'll have around 8 to 10, just depending on their availability. We meet once a month on Sundays, which has some pros and cons. We meet actually the hour before the library opens, which is really nice because then it doesn't conflict with our desk schedule at all. Because as Lindsay said, on Sundays, if you're working, you're on desk the whole time. This schedule works for most of the members, and they actually voted for this schedule. So we tend to have a pretty good turnout. The cons of this, though, are, we only meet once a month, and sometimes the timing isn't ideal. We do our Sunday staff schedule on a rotation. So I just work every fourth Sunday, and just sometimes it falls on an inconvenient day. Sometimes it's the Sunday after Christmas. Sometimes it's the Sunday right before spring break, stuff like that. So if that happens, I might, instead of having a meeting, I might send them like a poll or just send them an email and ask them to respond with questions, or I might just have a few one-off volunteer opportunities during that month to help give them something. But again, pros and cons to every schedule, but it's been working pretty well for us. At each meeting, I usually start off with reminding them about upcoming teen programs that we have, just again, as a way to help me market them to them. I'll remind them about our upcoming meeting dates and any additional volunteer opportunities that we might have available for them. Next, we'll kind of move into a brainstorming session. We do take and make kits every month, and I'll have them help me brainstorm ideas for that, brainstorm ideas for programming. What should our summer reading prizes be this year? Stuff like that. I will say I have found it works much better if I give them choices rather than just ask open-ended questions. So that would be my advice to you. I'm sure many of you already know this already, but instead of being like, what kind of programming should we do? I'll be like, here's a few programs that I found. Would you like to do A, B, or C? Or why do you like or not like A, B, or C? And that tends to be a little bit more of a productive conversation than just being like, what should we do? Once we do that, we'll move into working on our big project for the semester. So we'll spend a little bit of time on either the murder mystery or the stuffed animal event. And then last, I'll have them split up and do some hands-on work. So I will have all of the supplies for a take and make kit, and they'll put them all together. And we generally make about 30 kits. I also have the teens do all of the big displays in the teen area, and they change those out every month or so. So I'll have some of them come upstairs and use the die cut machine and make a cool display. Depending on the mix of kids that I have at each meeting, it will probably surprise no one that the majority of the kids are very introverted who sign up for this opportunity. I do have a few talkers, which is nice, but if I happen to hit a month where it's like all quiet kids and I'm having a hard time getting them to engage, I will do the hands-on work while talking to them. So we'll work on the take and make kits while we talk about upcoming programs and stuff like that. And I find that tends to work pretty well. Why Teen Volunteer Council is meaningful? Well, it helps teens make decisions that directly impact their library services. It provides them a space to meet with like-minded kids. It helps me stay in touch with the latest things that they're into and their concerns. And I always really love when they like to update me on the slang, but be like, you're going to be seeing a lot of this meme, so let us explain to you what it means so you're ready, which is very sweet. It's a great way for me to get to know them better as people. And again, it's really nice just to have an on-call group of kids who I know, who I can reach out to when other little things come up that we might need help with. For example, we've had Teen Volunteer Council kids help with the summer reading kickoff carnival that Lindsay mentioned. We did a book donation drive a couple years ago that my teens helped out with. Sometimes I'll have them come in and help out with programs, sometimes big programs in the children's room if they need help with them. I do a taste test program every summer, and I often need a lot of help just setting up and cleaning that up. And so they come in and kind of serve as programming assistants, which is really fun. And they like being able to do kind of a mix of activities, and it feels special that we've kind of singled them out to do those things. And last, the things that we do and discuss at meetings have a visible impact. So like they can see the success of the programs that they had the idea for and the programs that they implement. We get fantastic feedback on both the stuffed animal sleepover and the murder mystery. We get great feedback on the take and make kits. They love being able to work on the displays and choosing the books that go on the displays, and they'll bring in their friends and they'll bring in their families to come see, and that's really fun. So overall, they just have a sense of ownership over our teen space and the teen services that we offer. And I think those things are in turn improved because we've had their direct input. So it's really one of those win-win volunteer opportunities. And I did get a few quotes here from some of my teens who have been serving for like 3+ years who are in high school now. And in general, most of them say like they love being part of Teen Volunteer Council because they get to meet with kids who are passionate about the same things they are. They've grown up coming to the library and it's always been special to them, and they love being able to give back. They think it's really important to give back to their community, and they just love the fun events that we do. All right, so teen advisory groups are obviously not something that we invented here. I know a lot of you are probably doing this at your own libraries. What are you doing that's working? What's not working? What do you have questions about? Let's take
Yeah,
a
there's a lot of good stuff in the chat. People are posting like pictures of cool displays that their teens did. Someone asked, how do you recruit your teen advisory board?
we have a slide on that at the end, so we'll be talking a little bit
Yeah.
more about recruitment later. So
Yeah.
we won't forget. I promise we'll get to it.
Yeah, and there's questions about Summer Squad, if we accept everybody, how do we keep them engaged? And that is a great question. I do like to accept everybody for Summer Squad because we don't always have opportunities all year round. So this is really their opportunity to get into the library and volunteer. And that's why I also don't really monitor how many hours they're volunteering. Like I don't turn them away if they can only come in like for 1 or 2 shifts, because I just want them to get their foot in the door. And yeah, I've never really had any behavior issues to address with any of the teen volunteers. If they're not engaged, we know it's maybe not fun for them, but hopefully they must be doing it for a reason. Either they need it for the hours or their adult wants them to do it. We don't turn those kids away, but we do have like a training with customer service skills, and have found that they all deliver on those really core customer service skills. They're really just great at it, even if they're not super engaged. That has happened very rarely.
Yeah, and I feel like when we have had kids who are a little more like reserved or shy, we're able to kind of redirect them to different tasks, like helping with shelving or shelf reading, or just other things that may not be as one-on-one with people. But we've been pretty lucky.
That's true. We never force them to do anything. So if they don't like doing the summer reading prize table, we do let them just like wander the department and straighten shelves, or we try to find a behind the scenes task that fits them better.
Someone asked, when we're planning a big program like the murder mystery, do we meet with them more often than once a month? For that, so first of all, I do have a lot of staff help. So I have formed like a little staff murder mystery committee with like 3 or 4 staff members who will help me. And so we do a lot of the heavy lifting, I will say. And I tend to have 1 or 2 teens who have been involved for a few years who ask if they can specifically come in and help with the script. So I will often have meetings, not with the whole group, but with maybe like a select couple kids to help write the script. Just because I find it's easier. Again, when I get the big group together, they like suddenly clam up sometimes and they're a little bit shy. But when I get like 2 together with me, they do a really good job of helping with things. So that's kind of how I tend to do it. We don't have extra meetings with the whole group, but I might assign a few of them to do other things. Like usually a couple of them are really excited about doing costumes and will like to ask their friends and family for props and costumes that we can use. So I'll let them do that. I kind of play to their strengths and interests, and I find that has worked well. And then the take and make kits that we do, these are for teens. So I actually partner with the adult services staff on take and make kits just so that we can spread our money a little bit further. So we choose crafts that are for that would appeal to both teens and adults. Children's department also does take and makes, but they kind of do their own thing. This is specifically teen and adult take and makes.
But there's someone in chat who has over 100 teens in their teen advisory board. So
that sounds amazing, but
group.
also
that's amazing. Yeah.
Exhausting.
Yeah, I'm sure that comes with some unique challenges.
Yeah. let's see, how long oh, our meetings tend to be about an hour, although if we have a take and make kit that's like a little more elaborate, or if we have more to do, I will say that we might need to go over by 20 or 30 minutes, and say those of you who are able to stay are welcome to stay and help me finish up those tasks. And it is just the 1 hour before the library opens up. We meet from 12 to 1. Library opens up right at 1. Let's see. Oh, and clearances. We are going to talk a little bit more about our reference check process later on in the presentation. Okay, am I missing any other big questions, or do we want to move
I
on?
think so. I think it's a good time to go to the next slide.
Okay. I'm going to close the chat. Okay. Okay, next I want to tell you all about my teen review crew, which is kind of, I feel like, my secret life hack to making sure I have a volunteer opportunity ready for every teen who applies for something, even those like many kids who email you in February looking for 20 volunteer hours for their National Honor Society application. I'm always happy that this is something that I can provide them with. So Review Crew is a passive program that I developed that allows kids to write book reviews for our book review blog for volunteer credit. 1 review equals 1 hour of credit. I know that's a little bit generous. I used to do it a half hour, but it was too much math. It was too much work. So the 1-to-1 has worked well. The kids who take part must live in or go to school in our community, and I do limit them to 10 reviews max. I provide them with a guideline sheet when they apply based on review writing criteria that I kind of cobbled together both from school library journals review writing guidelines and from book list review writing guidelines. I also ask them to use the Goodreads star structure, like 1 star equals I hate it, 5 stars equal I love it. And then I offer them kind of a basic formula to follow, like 1 to 2 sentence summary, 1 to 2 sentence, so they do have like kind of a formula to follow. I do ask that they write me a sample review first. And again, I never turn anybody away from this, but I will offer them tips for revision if necessary. Sometimes I have to work with them on not spoiling the book when they're doing their summary, things like that. But generally, they do a pretty good job. I do ask that it's a book that we own at our library. They don't need to have checked it out from here, but it needs to be a book that's available in our library's collection. And I also let them know that I really prefer that the book be like less than about 5 years old or so, just because I prefer to spotlight books that kids may not know about yet. I get a lot of reviews of like The Old Man and the Sea because they've already written book reports on it and no one really needs that. It's not really helpful. I will make exceptions and accept stuff like that from time to time if they're like desperate for hours or on a time crunch, but I really prefer that it's like a contemporary book that they review. This is one of our opportunities that is year round. I accept kids all the time. Anytime they want to do it, they can. They don't have to get their reviews to me on a certain timeline. It's whenever they feel like writing one, they can send it in, very low key. My goal with it was to provide a passive opportunity that would work for teens who have busy schedules, who may not be able to make it for our other volunteer opportunities that happen at really specific times, for kids who may not have transportation to the library, and for those kids who need last minute credit. And it's really helpful that it's just something that is always available. I can always offer it to folks. And why it's meaningful, I let all of the kids know that their reviews help me when I'm making purchasing decisions. I really like to see what they're interested in reading, what they don't like, what they do like. That's really helpful for me with my collection development. And I regularly share the link to the blog with parents who are looking for book suggestions. And again, it's one of those things that's visible. They can show it to their own friends, their families can see it. It's public for everybody. So it's a cool thing to take part of or to take part in. And I did include the URL there if you all want to go and check it out. Again, we don't get consistent reviews. It tends to be those time of years when they're like scrambling for their volunteer hours, but we do get a really good mix of older kids, younger kids, and different types of books.
And Jessica, they're asking for your review guidelines and expectations, which I thought we could provide with the
Yes.
slides.
Yeah, I'll provide that. It's just something, again, I kind of cobbled it together based on things from other from other review writing resources. But it's really nice to just kind of have the handy formula for them to see. And I'd be happy to share that with you all.
Yeah. And what if they want to review the same book that's already been reviewed before?
I do allow that, again, because they'll probably have a different take on it. So I do allow it. I try, again, this for me was sort of my easy thing for me, where I really want this to be as minimal work for me on my end. So I try not to be too strict. I do want to teach them how to use the catalog and look up to see if it's a book that we own. So that's kind of the main thing I care about, because I think that's a good skill, and that's something they all tend to struggle with at the beginning. Then I'm okay with if it's a book that's already been reviewed. I will also allow books that are like in the children's section or in the adult section of the library. I try to be really as flexible as I can, because a lot of our other volunteer opportunities are like on Sundays or over the summer. It's times, teens don't have control over their own schedules, and it can be hard for them. So I really wanted to have something that really anybody could participate in with just a minimal amount of hurdles to jump. Anything else that I'm missing before we move on?
There was a question about if we have any concerns with AI, teens using AI for their
That's a
reviews.
good question. And that's not something that I've really run into lately, because as you'll see if you check out the blog, it's just really sporadic that I get the reviews, and often kids submit multiple and I kind of get a sense of their voice. So that hasn't been anything I've struggled with yet, but that might be something I need to think about in the future. And I'm not sure how I will handle that. If anyone has ideas, feel free to share them. But luckily, it hasn't been something I've encountered yet.
And the blog lives on our library website, right, Jessica?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I have asked, because I've had some other kids recently kind of asking about it, I have asked that we have like a poster made with the QR code that I can put up in the teen room to give people easy access to it. So that's something I'm going to try to do soon.
I think that covers the chat.
Okay. All right, next I want to tell you about our tutoring program that we have at the library. So we offer a tutoring program for kids in grades 6 through 12. We have a fillable PDF application form on our website, and kids / their parents generally fill in, their name, their grade, what school they go to, what subject matter they need help with, and then their day and time availability. I keep a roster of volunteers on hand, and it's a mix of teens and adults. So I only allow high schoolers for this one, and I'll pair them with middle schoolers. And then I also have adults who serve as volunteers for this. And when I get an application, I will work to pair each applicant with a tutor who has expertise in the subject area they need help with, who is available at a day and time that overlaps, and is a day and time that we have a study room available for. And I will schedule meetings for each pair for 1 hour once a week in one of our library study rooms. And I start out just scheduling them for the semester. Most pairs continue on through the full school year, but every once in a while we have schedule changes between fall and spring with kids doing new sports or school play or something like that. So I do offer just semester to semester to allow for a little bit more flexibility. I only run the program during the school year from September through May, and I wait until September, even though we start school in August, just to give people a couple of weeks to figure out their schedules. If you are interested in trying this program at your library, I will let you know that everybody loves this program. It is so wonderful, but it is also kind of a beast. It is a lot of work to implement. So I keep track of all of the volunteers. I know that when they're available, what subjects they can help with. And then I also have notes on kind of their preferences, their personalities as I get to know them. Like I have found certain tutors work better with neurodivergent students than others. Some prefer like only high school or only middle school or both. Some prefer to work with kids who are really struggling and really need the help. Some prefer to work with kids who are already kind of advanced, like in an advanced math class, who might be struggling in something like that. So I kind of learn all of their quirks and their needs, and I keep track of that as well. Um, I also have to keep kind of the study room availability in mind, all of that. So it's kind of a lot of moving parts just to get these pairs going and to get the schedule made. Um, what else? Oh, and I essentially serve as the middleman for every pair. So we do this for safety reasons mostly. So all of the communication is flowing through me. And we do that for safety. I do that for my own record keeping, so I can keep stats on how many meetings are happening. And I do that so I can help manage the study room reservations. I have about 15 pairs right now. And there's always at least one scheduling issue, usually daily, if not weekly. So it's kind of a constant thing that I have to keep track of. I do also train staff on how to handle the scheduling process if I'm off or there's something that comes up last minute that our tutors and students need help with. I don't train any of the volunteers, but I have found that the high schoolers who apply for this program tend to be motivated kids if they're willing to commit to this. They tend to be smart, they tend to be motivated, they tend to be kind, and they almost always do a really good job. I do 2 reference checks for every teen tutor, and again, we'll talk a little bit more about that process down the road, but I essentially, talk to, like, their teachers and explain the program, make sure they think the kid will be a good fit for it, um, and almost always they are a great fit for it. Staff members are not present during the tutoring sessions, so we really want to make sure that these are kids that we trust. All of our study rooms have cameras. They're all glass windows. There's always staff around. But it was really important to get those reference checks done just for everybody's safety and peace of mind. What else did I want to share? Well, I get so much positive feedback for this program. Like, it is really meaningful for everybody involved. I hear from the parents and students who are getting tutored that it's really made a big difference, especially when it's a middle school student who's paired with a high schooler. Like, they just feel so cool having like an older friend who they can hang out with, who's helping them, and they can talk about other things. Like, it's really special for them to make that bond. Um, the teen tutors have told me that they find it really valuable. Like, it's really rewarding to see that they're actually helping somebody improve. They can witness that improvement firsthand. And it's just, yeah, it's something that people have really, really been excited about and love. And that is what I try to tell myself on the days when it takes up a lot of my time. It really is a truly special program and a great opportunity for high school students to have something really special to add to their college applications or their resumes.
Jessica, I just want to pause here to do a quick check-in with Kate, because I think we just have like a minute or two left.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yep, we do just have a minute or two left in our time that folks signed up for. So I'm actually gonna super quick just go ahead and drop our feedback survey link, and then also a link to a form that is if anyone has suggestions for future Talking Teen Services ideas, or if any Colorado folks would like to present a session, you can sign up on that form. And so then maybe Lindsay and Jessica, if you can stick around for a little while, maybe answer some questions like the things about like the application process or your background checks that people had questions about. Then if anyone is able to stay and stick around, but we will also keep recording through any other questions that people have. And I will be sending the recording out to everyone who registered. So you would be able to, catch the last few minutes in which whatever other questions they might have. So.
Thank you. That's what I get for sharing. I have no clock, so I had no
No,
sense
you're
of
good. So
time.
yeah, go ahead and answer any other questions you want. Like I said,
Okay.
we'll finish recording. So for anyone
All
who
right.
can't stick around.
I'm going to move on just really quick because I had one more volunteer opportunity, if that's okay. This is a kind of library adjacent opportunity that we offer in the city of Louisville called the Youth Advisory Board. So it is an official city board that advises Louisville City Council on issues impacting youth. We have 15 members in grades 6 through 12, and they serve 2-year terms. So we always have a mix of new kids and returning kids. They do have to apply and be interviewed to get a spot on the board. So it's kind of a great opportunity for them to practice the interview process and get some support with that in kind of a casual or like a lower stakes setting. Um, I co-run the group with another City of Louisville staff member, and our technical position is a staff liaison. The kids themselves run the group. So they elect a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and a marketing manager to run the meetings. We step in as needed, and then we do kind of the behind the scenes work, the communications and stuff like that. The group chooses one annual project to work on every year, and then they do little volunteering opportunities throughout the year, helping out with like programs at the rec center, supporting local charities, stuff like that. The project that they're doing this year is our City of Louisville Pet Mayor election. This is the second time we've done a pet mayor election. The idea was brought to the Youth Advisory Board after the Marshall Fire here in Louisville as something that we thought would be a fun way to spread positivity, a sense of community and fun, and to teach kids about the power of voting. So we did that 2 years ago, and we're doing, they decided at that time that the pet mayor would have a 2-year term limit. So now we're offering our second pet mayor election this year. The teens do all of the marketing for the pet mayor election. So they've made some really great TikToks to help promote it. They make flyers, pass them around town. They do school announcements to promote the projects. And they also kind of decided all of the logistical stuff, like how long are we doing voting? Are we doing a runoff? Like how are we doing all this? They made all of those choices. Some past projects that they've done, last year they did a climate change education scavenger hunt geared toward kids. They did a wayfinding project to showcase our city's walkability. One year they just did something promoting random acts of kindness. So it kind of varies from year to year. They get to choose what they do. This one is meaningful, again, because what they do has a visible impact. They really get to see the impact that they make. Also, they present to City Council every April and tell Council about the work that they've done throughout the year. And then Council also has the opportunity to ask them questions, and they can talk about other issues that they're concerned with. So it's a great way for them to be heard through our city leader, to our city leadership. And this is another one. It's a great way to kind of learn about how city government works. We even had one member who went on to serve in the Colorado House of Representatives. So that's really cool. And this is another one that for them is just a really great college app / resume booster for the upperclassmen. Okay, and the logistics that everyone was interested in. Recruitment. I find that I don't actually need to market volunteer opportunities too much. All of the kids who go to school here are required to get some community service hours, so they're actively seeking it. So we don't actually have to do too much work in that respect. If we do find that we need to recruit, like often I do need to recruit for teen tutoring just because that's such a heavy commitment. We'll post about it on social media. We hang posters. It's kind of like what we would do to advertise a program. I also reach out to local National Honor Society coordinators. And then I'll also look at my current pool of kiddos. Like I'll look to the Youth Advisory Board kids, the Teen Volunteer Council kids, because often they're interested in doing more than one thing. Did you have anything to add to that, Lindsay?
Yeah, and we also have a form on our website for both Reading Buddies and Squad where they can sign up for notifications to get notifications about when the next application window will be for the next sessions, because they don't always inquire at the right time, and we want to be able to keep track of those people if they're interested.
And then onboarding. So we do reference checks for teens, and it's a pretty basic application. They submit 2 references, usually teachers, and then we get in touch with the teachers. And like I said before, it's mostly explaining what the volunteer opportunity is going to entail and asking them if they think the teen is a good fit for this, what they think they might need help with or support with, what they think they might do well. Anything else I'm missing?
Yeah, can they follow directions?
Oh yeah.
Really basic things like that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then when I work with my department volunteers, I'll like talk to them over the phone first and find out what their needs are, if they need a certain number of hours. And then I'll have them come in for a trial shift and we'll see kind of how that trial shift goes. And if it's a good fit for both of us, then I ask them to be a volunteer for the semester. And then after the semester, I have a check-in with them and we see again if it's been a good fit for both of us. And if it has been, which it almost always has been, or it always has been, then I invite them to come back for the next semester and so on. And we just adjust their schedule as needed. But we do it kind of on a semester to semester basis in case we ever want to try something new.
You want to talk a little more about onboarding? Because I don't really do that so much with my volunteers.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I spoke to.
That's
We
pretty much
do,
it.
yeah, we do have them try out some of the tasks and things like that before we have them commit to like a full semester.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention that we do for safety, when we're contacting teens via email or text, we make sure another adult is also like CC'd or BCC'd on that email. Whether it might be another staff member, it might be a parent or something like that, but that's just something we started doing to make sure everybody was safe.
Yeah, our volunteers are all given a volunteer packet when they begin, and then we also give them abuse prevention guidelines that tell them, you know, not to be in a room alone with a child, that there should always be multiple people in a room, not to be in secluded areas, things like that.
And then for thanking volunteers, I provide all of my like in-person volunteers with like small treats like candy, stuff like that. Maybe like inexpensive swag like a pen, tote bag, stuff like that. And then for kids who have really committed a lot of time, like my TVC members and my tutors will do handwritten thank you notes for all of them. And they seem to really appreciate that.
And I'm able to give gift cards to some of my teen volunteers, and then the ones that volunteer for our carnival get a volunteer t-shirt, and then we'll let them keep that t-shirt if they want to. And then occasionally I will also take pictures of the programs, of kids doing crafts at the programs if teens have helped prep those crafts, and then I email them the pictures, and that's really rewarding for them to actually see their crafts in action.
We'll get that. Here's just a quick summary of all of those opportunities that you'll get when you get these slides, just to make sure you have everything. And then we were gonna, if you had other ideas you wanted to share, I know you've all been doing this in the chat, I'll check that out. I wanted to share a picture. This is one of the displays that my teen volunteers made most recently, and it was the first time we've done an interactive display like this. So they just, it says your fave books. They put their favorite books out. They put a couple of their favorite things, and kids have really added on to it. We were very excited about that. So they really enjoy coming back and seeing what other people have added. Okay, any other questions that we are missing?
Yeah, one of the questions in the chat was, how do you get enough kids enrolled to work with your tutors?
I do not have a problem with that. I actually had to close applications this year because I just didn't have enough tutors to go around. I will say this is a program we've had for a long time that I even inherited, so people know about it. I have in the past, before I had this kind of influx of folks, I would share it with teachers at the schools. Every once in a while I'll go to like back to school night, and I'll make sure to tell all of the math teachers especially that we have this opportunity available, and so they share with parents. And we find like just with word of mouth, it really gets around. We have a lot of like older siblings were tutored and now their younger siblings come to tutoring. So again, that's not something we super had to advertise. People have found it. And it's more been having enough tutors to match up with all of the students. That's been a little bit harder.
Let's see here. Someone was asking if you post the blogs or if teens do it, Jessica.
I do post the blogs.
Yeah,
So I will, I make sure the formatting is correct. I put the picture in, and I usually do a little bit of light editing. Like I try to keep it mostly in their words, but if there's any really blatant misspellings or anything like that, I will take care of some of that. So yeah, they send them to me and then I go ahead and just repost them on the blog.
And are teens involved in social media?
They are not, no. We do have like official city social media that we use. So like the youth advisory board kids will help make the TikToks, but then it does get posted by like our city communications manager. So they help make stuff, but then it does have to go through another layer just to make sure it fits all of our city's communication guidelines.
And then someone asks, how do you get the t-shirts for the teens? And our marketing coordinator for the library orders those t-shirts for us, and they match the staff t-shirts, except ours are blue and theirs are yellow, so that they can tell the difference between staff and volunteers at the carnival. And we don't do it for all of squad because it's a lot of teens to buy t-shirts for, and we think it's most important for them to do it at carnival. And also I let the teens keep their lanyards that hold their name tags, and not very many teens kept their lanyards that say like Louisville Public Library. So I'm not even sure that all of them would really want a t-shirt. So we'll see. This is our first year doing the carnival t-shirts with them, and we'll see how many of them actually want to keep them. Right.
Well, thank you, Lindsay and Jessica, so much for sharing about this like incredible, robust teen volunteer program you guys have at your library. It's really amazing to see how you've, sustained it over the years. So it's really special. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you to everyone for attending today. I'm going to go ahead and drop the feedback survey link one more time. We use this to not only grow as presenters and get feedback on the series itself. We also use it to report to our funders. The Colorado State Library is predominantly funded via federal grant dollars from the Institute of Museum and Library Services through the Library Service Technology Act. And so we do give them data on what we've been doing and how it's been going. So we use that for that as well. So we're always grateful when people take the time to fill out that survey for us. And Talking Teen Services is a new series by the Colorado State Library. We just launched this last year, and we are looking for ideas. So if there are topics in particular related to teen services that you would like to see us provide a webinar or a panel discussion on, you're welcome to fill out that survey and let us know what those are. And if you are from Colorado and you'd be interested in presenting a session like this or participating on a panel around a teen services topic, you can let me know that too, and I will follow up with you. So. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording, and then we will send out the recording and all the materials, the slides, and any other resources that Lindsay and Jessica have to share with you all within the next week. So,
Thanks, Kate. Thank you. Thanks, Kate.